What's up, everybody? My name is Andrew, and welcome to the Music Spiel, where I rant about music for possibly a bit too long. Today, I'm finally jumping into a full album review after a couple episodes of Artist Profile. Today, I'm talking about Saba's 2018 album, Care For Me. While 2018 was a lost year for me and my listening habits because of a variety of personal reasons, when I finally got a chance to listen to Care For Me all the way through, I was moved to tears. I still am sometimes, particularly at the end. While I mentioned it as an honorable mention in the Favorites of the 2010s episode, it's important enough for me to make it my first focused album review. It's the album that I listened to every morning of the first 2.5 months of quarantine, and it gave me a new perspective on life and how fragile it is. I'll do most of these album reviews in a track-by-track format because that's how I'm best able to compartmentalize my thoughts. Also, for this particular album, I may direct some ire towards Anthony Fantano because his review of this album enraged me. I understand how subjective music is, but some of his reasons for ranking this album a meh out of 10 don't feel like good reasons to me. Especially the whole wearing influences on the sleeve / drowning in your influences argument. As I've said before, there is nothing inherently wrong with wearing influences on your sleeves. If what you make feels unique in its own right, it's fine. If what you make feels like a blatant copy, then there's problems. Anyway, on to the review. Right off the bat, Busy sets the tone for the rest of the album. While this is an important aspect for any album, Saba nails it. From the opening line of I'm So Alone, it's clear that the loss that inspired this album still weighs heavy on Saba's soul. Saba's lyricism alone would make this a solid intro, but it's in the music where the emotion really shines through. The subtle guitar lick, the layering of voices and harmonies, the driving drum programming, the synth line that worms its way into the second chorus and the outro, the Mind's verse to end Busy and lead the listener into the second half of the track Sirens. All of these things add up with Saba's lyricism to create something amazing, and the transition into Sirens feels like such a natural progression for the song and for the album. Busy details Saba's struggles with social life both before and after the death of his cousin John Walt, and Sirens showcases Saba's fear of being black in a white man's world, touching on several high-profile police shootings, including Philando Castile and Stephon Clark. I can't speak from any personal experience on this topic, as I am a white man, but the fact that there's so many quote-unquote accidents like this should cause anyone to reflect on the current state of the American police system. Just a thought. Anyway, after Sirens comes Broken Girls. While some of the lyrics aren't quite that good and the outro feels a little forced, the sentiment of this song is something I can relate to fully. And the music, again, is amazing. The use of guitar and keys in most of the beats on this album really makes it stand out among the rest. I could go into why I relate to this track so heavily, but I don't feel like getting that personal in just the 4th episode. Maybe some other day. Following Broken Girls is one of the best songs from 2018 in my opinion, Life. For a song called Life, a lot of the track is focused on death. Death of John Walt, death of Saba's uncle, death of Tupac and Jesus, death caused by a supposedly religious Congress. A lot of death. And somehow, it goes so incredibly hard. The bass line is instantly recognizable, proving that it's not mysterious shit. The trap drums push the energy, the synths create a sense of unease, and the first line of the post-chorus perfectly encapsulates the pain of a man who has lost so much life around him in a short time. The heavy breathing at the end of the track during the piano outro shows just how much this track took out of Saba, and it's a really nice touch. The piano outro also acts as an amazing segue into Calligraphy. This piano line makes me cry almost every time. The song focuses on how Saba uses the pen to find something and confront his problems instead of running away from them. In the first verse, he explicitly says, "We cannot bury all of the fucked up shit that we've been through while God keeping us here." And I think that line acts as the thesis of or impetus for the album. Saba has been through so much, but he can't just bury that stuff and make art that a majority audience wants to hear. He has to write it away and put it out into the world in some way in order to fully process what he's gone through. After Calligraphy is Fighter, which at first honestly feels like filler until the 3rd verse. When Saba starts talking about how he's fighting himself, the chorus takes a completely different tone, forcing the listener to become more introspective as well. Again, like Broken Girls, the outro seems a bit forced, though I really do enjoy the beat switch. I don't have much to say on this one, because as much as I love the chorus, the 3rd verse, and the beat switch at the end, this is the second weakest track on the album to me. I don't have that much to say about it. However, Smile is amazing, getting the album back on track. It seems a little more hopeful than the rest of the album, and it provides a nice palate cleanser after being bombarded with so much pain and loss. It's not incredibly happy in tone, but it has some hope behind it. and the beat is amazing. It's somber, but it pushes forward with that same hope as most of the lyrics. And then Log Out happens. Not in a bad way. It just takes that slight sense of hope from Smile and crushes it with my personal favorite song from the album. I love Life, but Log Out has a beautiful piano line centering the beat, the trumpet line is awesome, and the way the beat sort of changes for Chance the Rapper's verse is yet another beautiful musical moment on this album. The lyrics focus on the dangers of social media and how everyone seems to be becoming obsessed with it, and I love it. I know this is a form of social media, but my total social media hiatus from July of 2018 to February of 2019 was one of the most productive and relaxed times I've had, despite the hard times that drove me to it. Anyone who values their mental health should attempt a social media hiatus every once in a while. Following Log Out is Gray. I'll be honest, as much as I thoroughly enjoy the beat and the musical elements, it feels like complete filler. It seems like every independent artist has a song lamenting the state of the recording industry, and that might be why I get bored at this song, but it does have some solid lyrics in the outro. There's not much to say about this song, though. It really feels like the weakest track on here, and that makes me sad because the music is amazing. What follows the weakest track on the album is a gut punch. Prom is once again centered around a somber piano loop, sparse bass, and simple drums. It has what I consider one of the greatest opening lines in a song in This Remind Me of Before We Had Insomnia. It's powerful storytelling mixed with exquisite production. The bass being used as a heartbeat twice is a great touch, and it amounts to what is the greatest possible lead-in to King. King uses a similar piano motif, though it's different enough to showcase that it's a different song. The drums on King are some of my favorite drums from the year 2018, and that's saying something. The chorus vocals and the horns are beautiful as well, but much like Prom, King is all about Saba's storytelling synthesized with the beautiful soundscapes. As the listener reaches the end of the song and realizes what's happening, with all the allusions to John Walt's death earlier in the album, it's hard to miss, but still, everything cuts out to focus on the piano and a vocal sample of John Walt in which he repeats, "I just hope I make it till tomorrow." There's an extra few seconds of silence at the end of King to let that experience sink in before Heaven All Around Me comes in, and this is where I really start crying pretty much every time. I'm an emotional person. Sue me. But this song is from the perspective of Walt's ghost after his death, and I can't really talk about it without crying, which is why I'm enraged that Fantano can listen to something like this and just call it meh. Care for Me is 41 minutes of a man bearing his soul to the listener following the loss of his cousin and closest friend, and while some of it doesn't hit as hard as the rest, that's only 2 tracks out of 10. Some of the things Fantano points out as not likable are just that, subjective. Being likable is focusing on subjectivity. To say the most cohesive thing is the fusion of trap and jazz rap production is to ignore the lyrical callbacks. But to be fair, Fantano does give credit where credit is due for the most part, and I don't mean to completely shit on him because he does use the phrase "to me" multiple times. He's not trying to project some grand knowledge or quote-unquote objective lens onto his audience or himself. Most reviews are completely subjective, but, as Video Game Donkey pointed out, to be a good critic you have to use irrefutable facts to back up your subjective opinions. I hope I've done that, and I hope someone will call me out if I'm not doing that. I think that's about all I have for this record and for this episode, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Thanks for checking out the Music Spiel. Next episode coming soon. Hope to see you there.